What's going on, world? You're tuned into the Down Money Show. When you're talking real estate, you're talking money down, you're talking down money. And I'm your host, who swags chefs and cooks for the beautiful city of Philadelphia. Call me Ramsey, Ransford Renaldo Quarry. Philadelphia, I'm here with Drexel Environmental Collaboratory. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me.
You're welcome.
Now, you got yourself a little squad here. So how about everybody introduce themselves?
Sure. My name is Mathy Vathanaraj. I'm a Vice Provost and Director of the Environmental Collaboratory at Drexel University. Sammy?
Hi, my name is Sammy Shuster. My role is Program Manager here at the Environmental Collaboratory at Drexel University.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Hugh Johnson. I'm the Senior Director for Research Strategy and Development in the Environmental Collaboratory.
This building, beautiful. Drexel has done a great job with it. How did you guys get into this space?
It was a space assigned to the Environmental
They
Collaboratory.
just parked you here.
Exactly.
They'll take that. Sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah.
It is, though. This building has some history. It was where when Philly used to be a multiple newspaper town, like a lot of cities, this is where the Bulletin newspaper was printed in this building.
Wow, that's quite a historic fact there. To leave it to Philadelphia, they'll always have some history behind every building, right? So, talk to me about this whole initiative. How did this thing start? Who started it, and why do you guys do it?
Yeah, so I was recruited to start and really started up at the Environmental Collaboratory is to bring all of the insights and intelligence and assets of the university, all the colleges and schools in the form of faculty, in the form of students, in the form of researchers, to work in a co-partnered way with community organizations, the communities, to address climate justice, to address how they're going to respond to extreme heat, how they're going to respond to the increased flooding issues, but also do it in a way that addresses kind of the systemic issues of racism, of low-income neighborhoods, so that we address climate in a way that's integrated with solutions to all the issues that communities are facing.
Wow, that is a lot that you're doing. And I'm clearly you're not doing it by yourself. So what do you guys do for all of this? Because he just said a lot of things.
I primarily help coordinate the Philadelphia Climate Justice Collective, which is one of the initiatives out of the collaboratory. And in that initiative, we work with 4 community-based organizations and support them with different climate mitigation projects that they are working on. We support them with funding, with consulting support, with student support, help them identify priorities that come out of the work they're doing, and then put together a recommendations report of how, as a coalition altogether, we can use what we learn to, advocate for more funding, advocate for policy change and things like that. So.
Wow, that is very interesting. I'll make sure I make a note that Sammy is pretty dope. And Hugh, what do you do?
Yeah, so I mean, we're a tight-knit team. I think we all are willing to wear multiple hats and just do, any aspect of whatever project. We have a lot of different projects going on. But as Sammy said, she's doing some more local Philadelphia climate justice collective work. I'm working with a colleague at the Academy of Natural Sciences, and we're looking at some statewide work. So we have a handful of municipalities that really range from some smaller boroughs to some county-level planning agencies, to some Reading and Scranton, our 3rd and 4th largest cities, and really helping them think about how they can implement their climate action plans. So we've been consulting with the state-level Department of Environmental Protection. They do a lot of technical assistance work for municipalities. And so we're thinking about how do we fill some of those gaps that the municipalities have for implementation, as well as connecting them to what we call like resource partners. So we're working with World Resources Institute, the EPA's Adaptation Office, and connecting them into also some federal technical assistance programs. And really kind of our goal is to create a kind of a learning community of municipalities where they can learn from each other best practices, and then we can also offer expertise from faculty. Students can deliver, time and energy into projects for each specific municipality.
Wow, Matty, you got yourself a dream team here.
Well, beyond this dream team, we have this amazing, energetic, insightful students who participate in all our projects, and faculty. Right? So we're the front team. Behind us is a whole cadre of folks who want to really drive change.
Wow, so this is a student-driven initiative. Like, talk to me about how they get involved.
So we have students, a student who helped build out something we call a climate workforce program. And we consulted with workforce organizations around the city. She led that effort. She led the consultation and the development of recommendations. So that's one aspect. So we have students involved in the Philadelphia Climate Justice Collective. So we believe all the work needs to integrate students as a learning experience, but also I think students bring an amazing multidisciplinary, innovative aspect to the work that we're doing.
Very cool, very cool. Now, I'm going to put you all on the spot.
Okay.
And this is the time where you really let the world know that you're the people to be talking about what you're talking about. Tell me about your background. What qualifies you for this work?
It's a lifetime journey, right?
Like everything else.
I cut my teeth in New York City, working on what now is called the environmental justice movement. I helped shape something called the New York City Environmental Justice Alliance. Fought back on some of the terrible Giuliani policies, helped communities really fight back and rebuild the communities in the way that they want to build. Based on that work, I was nominated and served in President Obama's administration for 2 terms.
Wow.
I was an assistant administrator at the U.S. EPA. After those 2 terms ended, I decided I don't want to do work in the U.S. during that certain presidency. So I did work internationally, working with the World Economic Forum. And then I was recruited to take this job. So.
Very cool, very cool. Now, Sammy, I'm going to come down to you just in a second. You, what qualifies you to be a part of this team?
Sure, yeah. So I'm actually a forest ecologist by training. So the first part of my career was a lot of ecological restoration work, but always with a focus on adapting restoration for climate change. Then I did some kind of corporate and private environmental consulting projects for renewable energy and those sorts of type of work. But I've actually been fortunate. I've been at Drexel for about 10 years now, and really understanding kind of the research enterprise and how you generate and instigate new research projects, how you recruit faculty and students, and really humbly, this kind of really community-centered work. I've done a lot of civic engagement work before, but I think that's very different and much broader than truly authentic community-based work. So I'm really lucky to work with Sammy and Matty, who both have backgrounds in that really community-centered work, and to try to think about how do we do this work in a university setting, right? And really think about how do we bring university resources and expertise to bear for community-centered work that isn't extractive, that really puts the community knowledge and expertise at the center and also at the center of decision-making, and how can universities be in service of that work. So I try to bring that part of my experience of just working at a higher ed university for a number of years to think about how best to do that.
Very cool. Have you been on camera before?
No.
Man, you're good. This guy's good. Sammy, talk to us.
Sure. So prior to my role here, I worked for many years at the Department of Public Health in Philadelphia in maternal, child, and family health. So my work there was really around creating a coalition of different organizations in Philadelphia that work in maternal health, and really working with the community-based organizations and community members to really lead the work and create projects and initiative related to maternal health that were led by the community. And so it was really, similar when I saw the role here, really just about how to create initiatives that are really community-led. And so that's sort of how I got into this, interest. And simultaneously, I'm also studying, I'm at Drexel studying public health at a doctoral program. So really the intersection of public health and climate is another interest of mine.
How does this connect to Drexel students and their studies? Because kids got to graduate, right? We're not in college just to save the world. How does that intertwine with their academics?
So when you look at the interests of Gen Zs really want to get involved in solution building, not when they graduate, but during their studies. And Drexel is one of the foremost experiential learning schools in the country. So it's really kind of to bring the students into the real world while they're here. learn by working on the ground, learn by working with community leaders, learn what the systemic issues are that if they want to truly get involved in centered justice work. It really requires getting into the communities, understanding all of the systemic issues that the communities have faced historically, so that they can become a leader once they leave.
That is really big. Getting into the community and understanding what that community has been through. A lot of times when people go out to do this type of work, that is the step that's missed. And people need to realize that that's the first step and should always be the first step, understanding who you're serving and how you're actually going to help those people. Awareness is huge, right? We're all talking about climate change. We're all talking about the things that impact our society. How are you guys raising awareness?
We raise awareness and doing things like this.
Yeah, of course.
I would say we raise awareness by engaging people authentically where they are, right? So we engage communities, and so sometimes it's talking to young people, there's a youth ambassador program at one of our community partners, the Mantua Civic Association, and I've spoken to students and trying to translate climate in a way that makes sense to them. Like, well, what's the role of climate? What role can they play? The value of trees of reducing heat. Trying to translate climate in a way that is accessible to people are some of the things that we're doing. I also participate in a global effort with the World Economic Forum around how do we make communication more accessible to people. There's a whole conversation about climate trauma right now, particularly among young people, where there's almost a sense of depression around not being able to do something. And what this effort globally is about, how do you bring climate information that empowers people to do something?
How can you raise awareness? What do you do in your day-to-day? Can we dress you up in some type of outfit, send you down the street with a flag that has a world on it? What can we do? How can we help you get involved here?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's like what Matty said in the opening comments. I think, some of our other partners talk about people don't always connect kind of the situations, the burdens that they're facing with environmental justice, climate justice issues. They see them as separated, and I think empowering people to really think about, right? Like, you can't talk about climate solutions if people have energy burden, food insecurity, inadequate or unsafe housing. I mean, as Matty said, thinking about these systemic issues, you have to think about how those things have to be collectively worked on and connected to the climate issue, because they certainly are, right? Like, people are facing extreme heat. Food insecurity is going to become a bigger global problem because of climate change. So I think, but it's not hard to connect the dots to a lot of things to climate one way or the other.
Don't tell me the food shortage is really going to be a thing, man, because I love to eat. So when you talk about food, you're going to hit me home. So this next question is for Sammy. Feel free to kick it to whoever if you don't want to answer it.
Okay.
But what does success look like for this program?
I think one element of success is really just seeing, at least in the Climate Justice Collective, is really just seeing how much of the work is really community-led and the mechanisms that we create to ensure that they're community-led. I mean, some of the things that we've been doing is really ensuring that the whole collective is operating on a set of guiding principles that are developed by them, ensuring that all the data that is collected is really, we receive consent from the community and what's shared and things that are presented and put out there, that it's okay for everyone, that everything that's put out is really co-developed by the community, and that, all the mechanisms that we create are also co-developed by that. So I think ensuring that we have those sort of mechanisms in place is one way to ensure success, because otherwise whatever we're putting out there, it's not informed by the people we're working with. So I think those existing is one way of knowing that we've hit success.
Yeah, maybe I
Beautiful.
could add to that. I think another aspect of a success is power building, right? Ultimately, to add to Sammy's comment, the community should be empowered to be at the table to drive solutions. And what we hope to do is to provide the information, the data, the analysis, so that communities can drive policymaking, communities can drive solutions too often, the reason why historically, one of the reasons why historically the systemic issues have gotten worse and worse is that even well-intended people do not have communities at the table. We fundamentally believe that part of what we need to do is power build to them and for them so they could drive solutions.
That's huge. Power building, because it's the seat at the table that matters, right?
Yeah.
Why do you need someone to talk on your behalf if you're at the table to speak for yourself? So you got great answers, man. You sure you don't got any media training?
I've done a bit.
You've done a bit?
Yeah.
I can tell, man. You really go for it. So if this was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? Everybody would just solve it tomorrow. But what are the biggest challenges, in actually creating real change and putting us in a position where we don't have to be as afraid of what's going to happen next?
Well, I would begin with where you left off, not being afraid, but being engaged in solution building. Right? So I think that what we try to do, working with communities, informed by communities, is how do we break this down in terms of solutions that they've identified and work with them. Right? So extreme heat, how can we work with communities to develop strategies around extreme heat? Hugh mentioned energy burdens. We're working with the Energy Coordinating Agency, who's been a tremendous leader in this city to prevent utility shutoffs. How can we take the work that they're doing and then look at things like reducing their heat burdens through taking advantage of tax credits for heat pumps, retrofitting their homes to reduce heat and cool in the summer or winter. Right? So these are some of the elements. These are not sexy stuff, but this is meeting people where they are. Right? Now, I fundamentally believe that if we don't focus all climate solutions on the communities that are most vulnerable, then almost everyone gets left behind. So we believe fundamentally that we need to solve all problems through the lens of protecting the most vulnerable. If we do that, then everyone else is protected.
Agreed. Now, to be very practical here, we live in the city of Philadelphia, city of brotherly love, working class city. These folks don't got a lot of time. If they want to know how they can get involved, what's the fastest way?
Well, they can connect with us through our website. Just Google the Environmental Collaboratory, and our website will come up. But I would say also engage their council members. Engage their council members in terms of taking seriously the need to invest in this city and need to invest in the communities of greatest need. So I think being active politically is really, really important. And if I can add to that, your voice and your vote matters now than ever.
Agreed. And when we say engage our politicians, we mean call them.
Call them.
Send them letters.
Go to their office.
Show up at the office. Do whatever you need to do to get your voice heard. No matter who you are or what you do, make sure you're heard. Now, on the horizon, what is there? You guys have these massive things going on. Like, what are the next 2 quarters looking like for you?
Next 2 quarters, I'll tell you a couple of big initiatives. We're building out a climate preparedness effort to how to protect the most vulnerable communities from extreme weather. We're starting with Eastwick, but we really want to build that out. We have a separate effort with Howard University to co-develop clean energy curriculum to really build out the capacity of HBCUs. Now we can partner with HBCUs to do that. So the 2 that I can think of, and you may want to talk about the Climate Justice Collective recommendations.
Sure. So we are in the process, so we've been supporting these 4 community-based organizations through the Climate Collective, Philadelphia Climate Justice Collective. And we're at a point now where we, through those projects, have put together a number of recommendations and themes based off of what they've learned from the work. And the idea now is to, we've just had a series of meetings with all the community-based organization leads and are just finalizing what these themes look like and recommendations look like. And now we're figuring out what the next steps are in terms of how we put that out. Like, what does the final report look like? What stakeholders are we targeting to share it with? Things like that. So in the next couple months, we'll be finalizing it. We'll have a final report. So it's coming out soon.
We have one other, an awarded grant that's in finalization, and it's going to be about building data capacity for both municipalities and community-based organizations. So, you know, the Inflation Reduction Act, all these sorts of things, right? With the Justice 40 commitment, making sure that the communities that need that funding the most, it actually goes to those communities and doesn't get spread too evenly. So one big barrier is, how do you capture your own data that's community relevant? How do you have data infrastructure that helps you be compliant with government funding and for future applications? So we have a grant specifically to help us work with communities to help them build that data infrastructure up so they can be more successful in future grant applications for federal funds.
That is interesting because there's always a lot of data and information. So what is the plans for the usability of this site or application? Because that tends to be the issue. You can't find it on the website or where the information is supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question. I think obviously, you know, even while this work is specifically focused on data that helps support application funding, helps support, you know, to demonstrate cumulative impacts that communities are facing, there's no reason why the data can't also, we think about data infrastructure that supports like open source public needs as well, even though it might be more focused on getting funding. Obviously this data could be used and help communities think about how they can, like you said, put it on a website, a dashboard of some kind, so it can also be used for other, you know, other reasons of why the community would want to use this for advocating on their behalf.
Last question here, and everyone feel free to chime in, but what does the future of environmental policy look like?
I think the future needs to be fully embrace equity as the foremost way of driving environmental policy. Historically, environmental policy has been disconnected from equity and justice. So I believe that the future of environmental policy must begin and have at its heart equity and justice. And so through that, you address the communities that are most vulnerable, the most, you know, the communities that currently are suffering with highest levels of upper respiratory illness, of asthma, of cardiovascular and cancer. Right? So I think the future of environmental policy needs to be driven from an equity and justice lens.
Very cool. Now, Hugh, Sammy, anything to cap that off? Hugh, she's looking at you.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I feel like I fully agree with what Matty said. I mean, I feel like it's really about the equity focus.
You want Sammy to have the last word here?
Yeah, just as the fact that, you know, equity, it obviously is about looking forward, but obviously we have to recognize the really deep underinvestment that's gone on for decades and decades and decades, right? So, like, can't just look forward when we talk about equity. We have to also go back and think about what it takes to get people at the table so that they can have the capacity to actually be at the table.
So maybe I could add an innovative thing you're looking at is how do we bring the new technologies to bear? So we're working on an effort. Drexel has one of the country's leading experts on game theory, right? So the idea is how do you bring this idea of apps and visualizations to communities? So you empower communities through these tools and technologies. We're also looking at how do we deploy artificial intelligence to kind of help understand and decipher what are the major opportunities. So we're really interested in looking how do we bring technology to leapfrog communities that are currently suffering to a healthier community.
Agreed. Well, this was great speaking with you. Thank you for taking the time. I truly enjoyed it. Hey, world, Philadelphia, you're tuned into the Down Money Show. When you're talking real estate, you're talking money down, you're talking down money, and you're also talking sustainability and changing the world. Drexel, it was great speaking with you again, but I just got to say this. Let's go, Cats. You know I'm a Villanova native. And then we're up.
Cool. Thank you.
There
This is
we
awesome.
go.
Appreciate it.